guys, and welcome to another episode of Everyday EDC. My name is Tyler, and today we are reviewing the Reik. I'm going to call it Reik. We'll just call it Reik. I know it's not Reik because there's some other Reiks that are spelled differently. But this is the Reik P831-SF. So this is a frame lock knife, stainless steel frame lock here, with a 14C28N Wharncliffe style blade. They call it a Wharncliffe. It kind of, once again, I'm torn between, is it Wharncliffe, is it sheep's foot? You know, I always called Wharncliffes like the straight edge. This has a gradual belly to it. Not a big deal. It does have a non-ambidextrous pocket clip that is not deep carry. You know, it's a small knife though, so, you know, maybe they couldn't make room for it. That's fine. They have a blue anodized thumb stud only on one side. So that's interesting. And, you know, I would rather be able to spotty flick this open or something like that. This does have a lock so that you cannot, basically it creates it into a fixed blade, but I hate when people compare that because it's still not a fixed blade. It's just you can't completely jack up and pull this out and then make it go down on your hands, right? Let's see. I don't think that lock can be engaged. It can't be engaged when it's in the closed position, so you can't lock it closed, but you can lock it in the open position. The one thing that I did notice that was a little, you know, annoying about this when I first got it, it was difficult, just kind of like the Kershaw bare knuckle. You're not used to doing it, and so you put your hands here and you put it down on the frame, and we always talk about just get over it, don't put your fingers there, but at the same time, it's in the same place that you would normally put your fingers, so not a big deal once you get used to it, and actually the action's pretty good once you get used to it. You just got to get used to not putting your hands on that frame lock. We have a lanyard hole here, not unobtrusive, but it kind of looks like they might have emphasized the lanyard hole position over the pocket clip position. I would have rather seen the pocket clip more of a deep carry considering how small and slender this knife is. But, you know, there's not really chamfering. They call this contoured edges. It like comes down in steps. As you can see, they do call it contoured. I don't call this contoured. When it comes up to a flat, I don't consider that contoured. What I would consider contoured is something like the Super Freak. It comes up, and I guess this isn't as contoured either, just because it does come up and it runs off into a flat, but they put texturing on the flat so it doesn't look flat. Now, some people may disagree with me, but I like the feeling of the round all around. So here's the Shaman too. It does come up to a flat, so I guess I'm being hypocritical, but this feels contoured. It goes up and in. This one just kind of goes stepped up and then to a huge flat. You know, I guess we'll call it contoured because I think I just proved myself wrong, but to me, contoured fits the whole palm of your hand better than a flat. Yeah, whatever. I think that's just about it for the basics on here. This is a T8 pivot. It is not free spinning, but the pivot does have a screw that goes into both sides, so it's captive. It's like a captive pivot pin, rather, that both of these sides screw into, which is okay. You know, you can adjust it a little bit. I took it apart, and it's running on phosphor bronze washers, plus it almost looks like a steel washer. I could be wrong, but there's two sets of washers on either side. One's black and one's bronze, like the phosphor bronze. Not 100% sure what that is, but the action is pretty good for it. So, and the reason I took it apart is I wanted to clean it up and get it as clean as possible before giving this review. This is a used knife. I traded Travis for these, I believe. If I mixed up who I traded them for, I apologize, Travis. It's not that it's been a while, so, you know, we've had a bunch of things coming and going. But I did trade my Wii Practic for this and the Tucson TS80. So, got me some, see, I'm trying to open it and I'm on a frame line. Got me some content for the channel, and I got him a nice Wii knife that he was very happy with. So, let's go on to some specs. Overall length on the Reik P83 or P831 is coming in at just about, it's in between 7.5 and 7 3/4. The overall blade length, you're getting about 3 1/3. So that's pretty good. And the overall cutting edge, you're getting about 3 1/4. So once again, pretty good on the overall length of this guy. You're getting a lot of blade length to handle ratio. Let's check the weight. Now remember, this is a stainless steel frame lock, so we're gonna have, it's gonna be probably a little bit heavier than it looks. Coming in at 3.27 ounces. Again, not incredibly heavy. It's still a light knife, right? It's just heavier than it looks. But you're getting just about the blade length to weight ratio there for those of us that care about that. One more thing that I need to start plugging in my videos. This is made in China. So if that matters to you, you know, that's where this is going. So this is a made in China knife. This is not made in America. I plugged that in a weird spot, I know, but I wanted to get that in there because I keep forgetting to do that. And I know some people really, really care about that. And I need to make sure that I hit that more often. So the blade stock thickness looks like it's coming in at just about 125 thousandths. The behind the edge thickness of this little guy coming in at 15,000. Stupid slicey. See if they kept it throughout the whole thing. Yeah, they basically kept the 15 thousandths behind the edge all the way up too, so kudos to them. I always do that. Turn this off. The overall thickness of this guy, look at this, coming in at 0.36 inches. Like probably one of the thinnest knives that I've ever reviewed. Ridiculous. Let's check the overall height in the pocket. So this is coming in at 1.05 inches tall. So it's a very, very discreet knife in your pocket. This is one of those, I would consider this knife like not a knife guy knife. To me, this knife reminds me of a solid choice for somebody who isn't like a huge knife enthusiast because of the discreet it reminds me of the Kershaw Leek kind of in a way. The reason I say that is I know a guy that carries the Kershaw Leek all the time. It's the only knife that he wants. It's the only knife that he likes. And he just likes how discreet and snappy and everything it is and gets it out to use it and puts it away. He doesn't sit there and play with it. So that's why this reminds me of more of a user-oriented knife. Let's go into some size comparisons. We have your feldspar and your mini feldspar. As you can see here, just slightly larger than your mini feldspar, just slightly shorter than your regular sized feldspar. Wow, regular sized feldspar. Your regular sized feldspar. Let's check the Rat Model 1 and Rat Model 2. And those of you new to the channel, the only reason that I do so many damn comparisons is A, it gives me an excuse to collect more knives. B, it also gives you guys, if you guys have seen one of these knives, you can compare it to this, right? Not everybody has seen every single knife that's out there. So I want to give as many comparisons as possible so you can say, oh yeah, I know the Rat 1. So that's how big it is compared to the Rat 1. Oh wait, I know the Rat 2. That's how big it is. Obviously much smaller than the Rat 1, slightly larger than the Rat 2. Let's get into your, let's do Civivi here. Your Civivi sandwich. Here you have your Civivi Dogma. And dun, da, 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 your Civivi Brigand. As I told you guys, I'm kind of upgrading these knives that I'm using as comparison knives to show you guys, kind of to show off the knives, gives me an excuse to collect something cool. But it gets, you know, I want to keep these knives forever. I mean, these are comparison knives. I really don't use these other than for comparisons. So as you can see, it's slightly smaller than both. And the Brigand and the Dogma, I haven't done the review on the Brigand yet, but the Brigand looks like it's coming in at just about the same size as the Dogma. So maybe I'm going to have to get a better small knife and change those out periodically to keep it interesting. Here is your Spyderco PM2 and your Spyderco PM3. This thing looks like it's just about the same size as the PM3, but then you stack them and it's much longer. It's longer on both ends. Let's see here. Can I get this? You can barely see the tip right here, and just because of the angle, but where I'm looking at it, you probably got about a 1/2 inch difference for the PM3. Now, as for the PM2, that doesn't want to play nice. It's probably about a 1/2 inch smaller than the PM2. So what are my overall thoughts on the Reik P831? So, first and foremost, see, the frame lock drives me nuts, as you guys can tell. I'm not used to it. I love 14C28N. Awesome, awesome, awesome budget steal. And for $40, guys, I will take 14C28N over D2 all freaking day. This is awesome steel. I love it. I love the blade shape and how slicey this guy is. It is fantastic. Once you get used to this frame, the frame's real light, but this locking mechanism that locks it into the locks it into the folding fixed blade position, this also acts as an over travel stop. So you cannot over travel on the frame, which is really nice. The action on it's pretty good. The profile is fantastic. It's not ergonomic beast, but in your hand, it's pretty awesome. Like, it's just so small. Now, you're not going to take this out and like do crazy cutting tasks with it, I don't think, just because of the small profile. When I grab the Super Freak, I feel like I can do anything and everything with this. With this one, I don't feel like this is an anything and everything knife. I feel like this is an everyday knife for the everyday guy. And it does it pretty well. The lanyard hole, not a big deal. The pocket clip's just meh. There's nothing special about it. Like I said before, if I hadn't, this is a T8. These are all T6. Not a big deal. But for 40 bucks, can I recommend this knife? I don't know when this came out, but can I recommend this? For sure. This is something that I would recommend to somebody who's not a big knife guy. Why? Because it's small. You know, you don't have the dual thumb studs on either side. I'm sure I could flip it over and try to do something with it, but I'm not going to. You know, I would prefer something like even the feldspar. I can spidey flick it out, and that's just my preferred method of opening. But this is just a pure thumb flip, which is fine. And everything about this knife is just fine. There's nothing extraordinary about this other than the sleek, thin profile and the price point. 40 bucks, stainless steel liners, 14C28N steel, awesome Wharncliffe blade, decent action. I think this is a killer for that price point. I seen it on Blade HQ for 40 bucks, and then I looked and it fluctuated plus or minus $5 throughout, but I've seen it also sold out in most places. So I'm not sure how readily available you can get your hands on this guy. But if you can, and you like just a super sleek, this can go in your yoga pants. Like, that's how sleek this guy is. It's not the weight that you would want, but how thin this is by comparison to, say, the PM2. Oh, how do we do that? Look at that. That's a better comparison right there. See how thin that is? Now, really, how thin is it compared to, like, say, the Spyderco Shaman? Because the Shaman's a notoriously thick knife. Look at that. Just insane. Against the Benchmade Super Freak, another notoriously thick knife. Like, you can almost slide the P831 into it. So this is the Reik P831, guys. 14C28N steel, phosphor bronze washers. They're on two separate sets of washers. I'm not sure what the secondary set that sits on the frame to the blade is. I think it's just regular steel, but I'm not sure. Frame lock with a locking mechanism here and an over travel stop. You got a thumb stud as your opening mechanism only on one side. This is made in China, like I said. And for 40 bucks, I can recommend this knife. It's a very, very solid piece for 40 bucks, and I love the blade steel and the blade shape. This blade shape is probably my favorite blade shape. This is the Reik P831-SF. My name is Tyler. This is Everyday EDC. You guys stay sharp, stay safe, stay friggin' warm, and have a great day. Subscribe if you haven't, please. That would be friggin' awesome. Later.